and doing well. I am gonna give everyone just a moment, make sure everything's working well on our side of things, all the technology side of things, as everyone can see as they join. We've got a guest, one of my fertility expert team members, Lonika, is here. So this is awesome. Okay, beautiful, beautiful. I see that we are actually going well. I can see that. So we've got some comments already. So that's great. Awesome. So welcome everyone. Happy Thursday to you. I just got the heads up from my assistant saying that everything's working well. For those, and I'm just not sure what was heard and what wasn't, but as you can see, I've got one of my fertility expert team members here with me today to come along to the ride and say hi to all of you. So this is Lonika. Everybody say hi to Lonika.
Hello, hello. I'm excited to be here.
All right, I'm just looking through the questions real quick to see what's there. Good. Okay. Great. Beautiful. Good. Yeah, we got hi, hi, hi. Awesome. This is great. I see all the messages. Everyone's saying hello. Beautiful, beautiful. Okay. So what I want you all to do is, because I see a bunch of questions coming in. These are all important questions. What I want to do actually before is I'm going to do this. Someone says hello. So I'm going to pop that up on the screen and say hi. And then we've got all these other hellos here. So we'll pop some of those up and say hi to you all there. And then I see a bunch of questions, which is always great. I want to make sure you guys keep those coming. America says, hello, Lonika. Hope I spelled that correctly. You did. You did an awesome job. All the way from Chicago. Look at that, Lo. From Chicago as well.
My hometown.
That's where Lonika's from, is Chicago. So I see all your questions. We're going to get in. I've got I've got a presentation that we are working from, which is going to be all the really important details and items that we want to cover as it relates to diet and fertility. I see a lot of really specific questions, which is always great. And I want you guys to just hold on to those. Stephanie says hi from Bell, California. Hi, Stephanie. And let's see here if there's anybody else. We got Canada, someone from Iraq, Austin, Ukraine. This is awesome. So we're gonna start with our presentation, and then what we're gonna do is we're going to get into those questions, okay? And I know a lot of you have specific questions around your specific concerns or issues. I want you to know that we're going to do the best we can to answer those questions at the end of the presentation. If you have not already gotten yourself a copy of our workbook, then I want to make sure you do that. And the way to do that is to head on over, don't close this screen, but just open up another tab and go to marksklar.com/fertility foods. And that's where you can download this workbook that goes hand in hand with this presentation. Okay. Aaron says hi from Colorado. Hi, Aaron. We've got someone from Italy. And that's going to be your guide. In just a moment, we're going to shift the presentation onto the screen, and you're going to get all, I say all three of us, one of which is actually the presentation, onto the screen for you guys to follow along with us. If there's a piece or part of the presentation, because now there's three of us on the screen, that you can't read well, then just know if you download the presentation, if you download the workbook, you're going to get the majority of that on your feed, or sorry, in your workbook, and you'll be able to follow along with us without having to read everything off of our screen, and you could just listen along. So if you have not already done that, then I want to encourage you to do that. It does take a minute or so for that to pop up into your email box, so just give it a couple of minutes, but I promise it will happen. We have tons of questions that are coming in, and we will do our best to get into it, but I want you to understand one thing from the beginning of this presentation. You all are looking for the magic one item of food, that one pill, that one specific food item, that one special diet that's going to change your specific condition. We want you to think about this a little bit differently. We want you to think about food overall and setting a healthy, good foundation with your diet choices and your food choices. And then everything will kind of funnel in from there, and we'll talk about that in much more detail in just a minute. But I want you guys to keep that in mind as we go through this. Someone's joining us from Serbia and Canada and South Africa and Germany. We are reaching people from all over the world. So thank you for joining. Welcome, welcome. This is awesome. So give me 1 second to move things around. I'm going to put this up on the screen. I'm going to do this. Then I'm going to do this. Awesome. All right. Okay, everybody. So we're going to get started. You guys hang tight as we get everything situated. And boom. There we go. Okay. So I'm going to give it a second to show up as I made some adjustments. Yes. This is awesome. We've got so many wonderful people from all over the world watching. I see all of those feeds coming in, those comments coming in. This is great. Hopefully you guys can all see that nice and clearly. And let's get into it. So if I can actually click on the screen. There we go. So for those of you who don't know, I'm Dr. Marc Sklar, the fertility expert, and you might know me because you found me right here on YouTube, on my fertility TV channel. You might know me because you've seen me on different podcasts and so forth. Me and my team are natural fertility experts, and we work with couples from all over the world through our fertility programs and our coaching to help you get pregnant naturally. And today I have one of my team members, Lonika, joining us so that she can help me educate all of you about nutrition and diet. So together we want to help all of you get pregnant and really support you during this process. We have worked with couples from all over the world, and we always love getting these awesome pictures from everybody when they get their wonderful announcements. This one was from Paris, and people in my fertility school program, and different beautiful stories of hope and encouragement and success. So I wanted to share all of this with all of you because I want all of you to be the next mom to message me and tell me that you're pregnant or that you've delivered your healthy baby. Okay. For a reminder for all of you who are watching on YouTube, if you have not already registered, then I suggest you do, because you're going to get this workbook in your hands or in your email after you register. And you can do that by going to marcsklar.com/fertility foods to get that. That link is also in the comment section if you need it to scroll and find it. And my assistant hopefully will pop that in there as well right now to make it easier for all of you. So if you haven't done that, make sure you go ahead and do that. Ideally, do it now rather than later. And you get to see Lonika's beautiful face right there. But in this picture,
Marc, you're showing up green. I don't know if that's just on my end.
What was that?
We can't see you. We can't see you. You're all green. Oh, there you are.
Oh, it's okay. Yeah, no, Aniansi says everything's looking good. So I think we're good. And I've got it showing up below me, just so you know, I can see it as well. So I know you all can see Lonika on the screen right here, but that's her with the arrow. And that's our group picture at the clinic. And as I said, I don't help couples and women all over the world on my own. We do have a team and we work together. And today, one of those team members is joining me, and which is awesome. But we run here in San Diego 2 functional medicine clinics, and then we see patients from all over the world, depending on how patients decide to work with me. And how I started putting together this information to educate all of you on YouTube was really that I started putting together educational videos for my patients in my clinics. And then 5 years later and over 100,000 subscribers later, I've produced hundreds of videos. And certainly the way our videos have been created and produced have changed over the years to become a little bit nicer, but it's really more about the information that it's providing to all of you. And that's really how my fertility program started, because I started creating all of this, and all of you throughout the world reached out to me or started to want to reach out to me to gain more support on your fertility journey. And that's how I've evolved our practice and grown it to support and help couples from all over the world, not just here in San Diego. And so that's a little bit about how I started my program. You may have met Lonika before in either some videos or blog posts or joining on Instagram here and there, but I'm going to turn it over to her for just a moment so she could say a little bit, say hi and say a little bit about herself as well.
Yeah, hi, I'm Lonika. I'm really excited to be here today. It's been a while. I'm excited to have so many people from around the world. Just a little bit about me. I have been practicing for about 12 years, and actually over half of that has been working with Dr. Marc here, which is surprising to think about. Time flies. I've always been interested in women's health and fertility, but I personally struggled with reproductive health issues from when I was younger. So that was my first catalyst kind of getting into that world. And I had the privilege of working after I'd finished school, working with in a couple of women's clinics overseas. And it was amazing to me to see how the medicine and working with natural medicine had such an effect on our bodies, and how we work with diet, lifestyle, all of these different things can be really, really important in helping enhance fertility and reproductive health. So it was really what drew me into this. And I love working with all of our patients that we see in the clinic and around the world.
Awesome. Thank you. So for those who have spoken to Lo, you know how wonderful she is, but also more importantly, you know that she can relate to you because she's gone through some of these struggles herself. So sometimes that does make a difference and helps you get a better helps Lonika get a better understanding for where you're coming from. So thanks for sharing that. So one thing with regards to nutrition right now is, I know because of the current state of the world and everyone is a little bit more on edge and more anxious and more displaced because of the virus, that we're all maybe your food choices have changed, and maybe it's become a little bit harder to be good with your diet because you're looking for more comfort foods, and you're trying to just cope with the situation. I want you to know that I want you to use this moment, this training as a little reset button for yourself on where you need to be. It's not about being perfect. It's about making improvements and making changes. And there's really no judgments here. You know, I have patients who show us all sorts of diets, and it's not about us criticizing the diet. It's about us supporting you to make better food choices. And hopefully this is a reminder to do that moving forward. Okay. So with this training, we want to help you realign your fertility goals and talk all about nutrition and food and what you need to do to fuel your fertility now and into the future. So we're also going to share other fertility tips, because now that we have you here and you came for the food and the diet piece, we want to also educate you on other parts of fertility, so that it's not just a small piece of what we're doing and just a little focus in terms of your nutrition, that we're allowing you to think a little bit differently and more broadly when it comes to your fertility process, and just nutrition and food being one part of it, because there is so much more. And I know we keep getting questions and emails from people about the current state of the world and the virus, and should they be putting things on hold because of what's going on in the world and the craziness. And now is not the time to stop thinking about getting pregnant. Maybe it's a little pause for a moment. But really, this is the time to reset things and take the time to prepare your body and to help your body be more fertile when you're ready to start trying. And I do get the sense and the feeling that things are starting to shift back to a little bit more normalcy, for whatever that is and whatever that's worth. And diet is such a big part of resetting your fertility. And it was a big request by all of you to create this, which is why we're doing that. And so if you're here and you're trying to decide if this is for you, if this workshop and training is for you, I want you to take these things into account. If you've spent all this time searching on Google, asking friends, looking for the next greatest fertility tip or trick, then this training is absolutely for you. If you're doing it all, supplements, food, and you're not quite sure why things aren't really working, then this is definitely for you. And if you feel overwhelmed, you don't know what to do, where to go, and you feel like time is running out or you're wasting time, then this is definitely for you, because this is going to help you realign and get a better understanding for diet and where you need to be with your fertility. But if you're looking for a magic pill, if you think you know it all and you're not ready to learn more and be receptive to learning more and changing things, if you're not willing to do what it takes to make the changes, and if you get mad when Lonika and I are sitting here giving you our time to support you on your journey, then definitely this is not the right place for you. I encourage you to go check out potentially a different video. So the reason behind this training, or one of the reasons, because the first part was that you all requested it. And so I'm always listening for all of you to be able to create information that you all need. But I'm about to show you a text message or a text interaction between myself and one of my followers, one of you, about food. And you could tell that she was getting very stressed out about it. She was feeling overwhelmed. It didn't feel like she had control of her situation. And part of this is because there was no plan. And we want you to leave this training feeling empowered and with a clear plan for your nutrition and your fertility in general, okay? And we're also going to review some basic rules when it comes to trying to conceive. And one of those is the 80-20 rule. And here's what I mean. So I'm not sure if you can read this, but I'm going to read it to you. She says, hey, quick question. If I had a chocolate bar on Tuesday and 2 plain biscuits as my treat, is it okay Sunday to have an Easter egg? Because I've left it 4 days and that's not classed as binge eating. Is it after my roast dinner, right? And tomorrow carry on eating healthy with the omelet and fruits and everything. And we go back and forth about this. We go back and forth with this interaction. But what I want you all to recognize is clearly this person is stressing out a little bit too much about her diet. Okay? And this is not about judgment. We all get worked up about different things. But I want to show you that one chocolate bar, when you're eating really well, is not going to change your fertility. Okay. Now, do I want all of you going out and eating chocolate bars? Maybe not, right? I'm using this just as a point of reference, that this is about having balance and staying grounded. And that's one of the biggest things that I've tried to impart on her and impart on all of you. I even say, you want to eat well 80 to 90% of the time. Okay. So I think we can all, after this presentation, be able to judge that for ourselves. And I don't want you to stress about all the little things. I want you to think about the bigger picture when it comes to your fertility. The fertility journey is not an easy one for many couples. And there's so much information out there that many times it's really hard to know what you should be following, what you should be doing, and how you should be doing it. And that's exactly the burden we want to remove from all of our patients. We want to be that fertility detective for all of you so that you don't have to keep stressing out and you can have a plan to follow. The right food choices is one of those things, right? Is how to decide what the right food choices are and how to move forward with that. This is the time to make reasonable decisions for the safety of yourself, for your family, and your future baby. This is not the time to quit on your fertility, but it's also not the time to be adding extra stress into your life. I want you to make the right choices and make that process easier for yourself. So here's what we're going to cover, okay? We're going to cover these basic things: basic fertility nutrition guidelines, the fertility food pyramid, fertility shopping list, fertility ratios, macronutrients and such, timing and prepping for success, keeping a diet log, and this is so important, how your fertility works, what we call the fertility wheel, why we love the 80-20 rule, and I just mentioned some of it before as why that's so important. We're going to bust some fertility myths, and then how to get started with your fertility plan. And then as a bonus, we have a 4-day fertility approved meal plan to share with all of you. Okay. However, you're going to get all of that only if you stay to the end. So we want you to get all of that, but you've got to stay to the end. In addition, we're going to give you a chance to apply to work with me and Lonica, and hopefully save a little bit of money as well as to do that. And remember, once again, that if you want the workbook and all this information in that workbook to help you on your nutrition and your food choices, then you've got to get it at marksklar.com/fertility foods. So you can go ahead and grab that there. All right. So I've personally always struggled with my health, especially my digestive issues. And this is why diet is so important to me. Okay. Diet has made such a huge change in my personal health and my personal digestive issues. And that's how I became a fertility detective, because I became obsessed and became my own detective for my own health and my own digestive issues. And then as I started to have a passion and develop a passion for women's health and fertility, I translated that and took everything I learned there and moved that to the fertility world and reproductive health world. And so now I'm a fertility detective for hopefully all of you. I don't believe that there's anything called unexplained infertility. I don't believe that IVF is your only option. I do believe it's potentially an option for some of you. I don't believe you've tried it all, and I don't believe that you're too old, okay? But because I've struggled with digestive issues all my life, I'm also very passionate about nutrition, as I mentioned, and it all starts in the gut, in the digestive system. And that's why your fertility plans also always have a big part with nutrition and usually start there. And there are so many different options for meal plans out there. It's important to choose the right one for you, for your hormones and your fertility. So just as a reminder, even though I'm going to be talking about specific key things as it relates to fertility right now, okay, and nutrition, it doesn't mean that everything Lonica and I are going to talk about is exactly what every single one of you watching should be doing. These are the framework, the outline, and the foundation for what you should be doing, but you all need your own individual plan. If all of you watching had, let's just say, low FSH, you all might have a different cause for that low FSH, and thus your diet should be slightly different from one another. If you all had PCOS, it doesn't mean you all have the same type of PCOS, and thus it doesn't mean that you all need to be on the same diet for PCOS. These are just guidelines, outlines, and frameworks to start to follow, and then hopefully to build upon for your specific, unique, individual situation. And that's where a proper plan comes into place. So when it comes to basic fertility guidelines, okay, if you've been following me for a while, you should all know, but it's important to set this out from the beginning that, sorry, I lost my power. I'm just trying to plug that back in. Excuse me. That I want you to know that it comes back to your individual needs and your plans, okay? So before we get started and before I turn this over to Lonika, I want you all to turn off your cell phones, close your Facebook browser and your Twitter browser, have a pen and a paper next to you, have your cup of water, okay? And I want you to get focused and listen to exactly what we're going to tell you, because this training is going to make a huge impact on your fertility and hopefully your health, okay? So I also want you guys to empty your cup. By that, I mean, I want you to empty your mind and be receptive to the information that we're going to teach you. This is all really good, important information, but if you're not open to receiving it and wanting to improve things and get to the root issue, then we're going to be back on our hamster wheel doing the same thing we've always done, right? So if you knew it all, if you were doing it all, if what you were doing was working, you wouldn't be here, you wouldn't need us, and hopefully you'd already be pregnant. So let's start fresh and let's open our mind and be receptive to the information that we're going to share with you. All right. So Lo, I'm going to turn it over to you.
All right. So we're going to kind of go through all the basic fertility guidelines, but I just want to kind of jump on what Dr. Marc said. I think that this is the best time. We're all going through a really stressful time, and I've definitely enjoyed some cookies here and there and whatever it is. It's time to kind of get back to where our diet, needs to be. And I think this is a perfect time to just focus on fertility. We have the time to do it. We need to just implement those things. And so just like Dr. Marc was saying, I've also struggled with some gut health issues. I suffer from Hashimoto, so I've had to make a lot of diet changes in my life here. And all of these things really make a big impact. And I look at this as, in addition to working with us, I think these are things that you can do at home. And this is what we always tell our patients. These are things that you can control and things that you can do to help improve your fertility. So number one, I know this one sounds like it's a no-brainer, but eating organic fruits and veggies is really, really important. They put a lot of pesticides and herbicides in the foods that we eat, and those can be big hormone disruptors. So we really want to make sure as much as we can we're eating organic fruits and veggies, and what we're putting in our body is really, really clean. That also goes for dairy products. We're not always huge fans of dairy products. It just depends what you have going on. So certain types of ailments, endometriosis, fibroids, those kinds of things, we don't want to necessarily put those in the body because they can be things that affect the estrogen, which is not great for us in those situations. Also with PCOS, oftentimes we suggest staying away from dairy, also with Hashimoto's. So we want to make sure, as Dr. Marc said earlier, some of these are general guidelines, but they're not always specific to what you have going on. So we're kind of given a good overview here. We want to make sure we're eating lean red meat, grass-fed meat, also very clean. We want to make sure they do add a lot of antibiotic hormones and things like that, all the meats that we're eating. So we want to make sure we're doing that. Same when we're talking about eggs and chicken. We want to make sure they're free range, pasture raised. They're running around eating all the bugs and nutrients in the ground, and they're all those good nutrients because those last along to us when we eat them. At fish, we want to go with the wild caught fish from the deep sea. Those, we don't want things that have heavy mercury content. So all of these things, you know, sound like little things, but when you add them all up, they can definitely affect what your hormones are doing. So we want to make sure we're doing as clean as possible. Fiber is huge, especially for estrogen. Fiber helps clear estrogen out of the body. So we want to make sure we're eating things like dark leafy greens, lots of veggies, all of those things in our diet. And we're going to work through a little bit later kind of what those ratios look like of how much we're eating of those different things. Soy, we are not a huge fan of soy just because it can affect the estrogen as well, especially during pregnancy and lactation. So we typically, if we're using non-dairy drinks or milks, we like unsweetened almond milk or unsweetened coconut milk. Those types of things don't have those estrogen disruptors in them. Sugars are a huge one. We don't like refined sugars. So, you know, we are all, again, most of us have to stay home right now. There's a lot of baking going on. And so trying to find alternatives to those different types of things for baking. I know banana bread is all the rage right now. That's a natural sugar though. That's a positive thing. We're not adding necessarily a lot of extra refined sugars in there. So making switches out like maple syrup, honey is a good option. Stevia is great. These things don't necessarily, they're not high in the glycemic index, so they're not raising your blood sugar quite as much. And that's important because, again, it goes back to what your hormones are doing. Drink lots of water, 6 to 8 glasses a day. I will tell you, I'm not the best at this myself. I always have a glass with me, but I also have my little bottle here. So for me, I make sure I fill that bottle up twice a day, and I'm always filling up my glass to make sure that I'm getting enough water in, because it's not always easy to keep track of all of that. But we really want to make sure you're hydrated well and that we're drinking good filtered water, because if we're getting chemicals through our water, that's affecting hormones as well. All right. Essential fatty acids. These are good. These are your omegas 3s and 6 and 9. We love these. Come with a lot of your good fats that you're eating. So flax oil, hemp oil, good olive oil, coconut oil, all of those things are helpful. So when you're cooking, those are the things that you want to make sure you're adding into the diet to help get it in that perspective as well. All right, cooking. We are not the hugest fans of the microwave. So microwave can deactivate all the good nutrients that you're getting in your food. So we want to make sure that we're not working against what we're doing. You're eating good, clean, healthy, organic foods. We want to make sure that we're preserving the health of those foods in what you're eating. And an awesome thing that you can add into your diet to help with digestion is ginger. We love ginger. It is great for helping process your food. It's an easy one you can throw in for cooking, but also in your smoothies in the morning. We love it. Really, from our perspective, really warms up your digestive tract and really helps process that digestion. So those are kind of just the basic ones as far as food goes. Mark's going to jump in here, I think.
Yeah, I'm going to jump in here.
If I missed anything.
No, that was perfect. So when it comes to, before I get into this slide, when it comes to all those points that Lonika just mentioned, those are the foundational pieces on how to build your diet. Those are the general guidelines, okay, that everybody, regardless of condition or history, should be using as your framework, okay? And then we build off of that and go from there. I see a bunch of questions coming in. I'm trying to add the ones that answer the ones that I can, but won't always be able to do that. We're going to save that for the end. And this nutrition here was a big thing for this patient. So she saw a bunch of doctors, 8 to 9. No one believed that she could get pregnant. She was about to lose hope, but she didn't. She reached out to me for answers. And once we had an understanding for what her underlying issues were, which in her case was not fertility, it was thyroid and autoimmune thyroid issues, we were able to create a dietary plan to support her specifically. And that, in addition to all the other things that we put together in her plan, allowed her to get pregnant and be successful with her journey. Her actual video, if you ever want to listen to it, is on my website under the Stories of Hope. And you can hear more about that there. And then we've got the fertility food pyramid. I'm going to let Lo start here.
Yeah, so if you guys notice, this looks very different than our standard American diet food pyramid that we have in the US. Where there's not as much emphasis on the carbohydrates and grains. And if you look at the bottom there, we're really working on good, whole, clean foods as the base of what we're eating and what we're putting in our body. And then, we like fats, those help, build our hormones. And we really want to make sure, again, as we said earlier, just really good, clean fruits and veggies. So moving on to the next slide here.
One quick question, Lo, before we switch to the next slide. I'll switch, but I'm going to answer a quick question. So 2 questions. Somebody asked about drinking ginger tea every day. Absolutely. It's awesome. And then someone also asked about stevia. So we're not big fans of stevia. Stevia, there is some research to show that stevia can be can cause sterility or can affect fertility negatively. So we're not the biggest fan of that. And so first and foremost, I had this conversation with a couple last night, actually, because they're putting stevia in everything. So I'm having them stop it. We don't want any of you using stevia as a sweetener. That's why Lonika mentioned those other sweeteners. Okay. And in addition to that, we're also assuming that you're probably getting some stevia in some packaged foods that you're having, and you're just not even aware of it. So we want to cut out and make sure you're not adding that in anywhere unnecessarily as well. So I just wanted to touch on that as that question got asked. So there you go, Lo.
That's good. All right. Okay, and then so this next slide that we have up here is kind of just a generalized picture of what, if you're looking at your plate, what the ratios of everything should look like. Now, as Dr. Marc said earlier, this is going to look a little bit different for everybody, but this is kind of the generalized rule of what we're looking at. We really want to focus on good fats and proteins and veggies, and our carbohydrates we want to make sure are on the lower side. So one of the, we don't necessarily always tell patients to do, there's so many diets out there, right? There's keto, there's the blood test diet, all those different things, paleo diets. There's just so many, it's hard to keep up with. There are times that we do put patients on specific diets, but we tend to look more towards a paleo type diet. So that doesn't mean you have to be strict paleo 100% unless there needs to be a reason for that. But we shoot more towards that diet. As I was saying earlier, as the carbohydrates tend to be a little bit on the lower side, but we're looking at more for those good fats and proteins to help build your body. So, all right. Our next slide we have here, it's basic fertility shopping. This is on your workbook. So if you guys are downloading that, you can check see all the good, yummy foods that we recommend specifically. I know some of these might be hard right now to get as far as being in quarantine or staying at home, but I'll say some of the good things that I've been able to, really incorporate into the diet are things like sweet potatoes. Those things stay for a long time. We've got rice, different types of beans. All of those things can be, things that we hopefully have access to right now and are able to incorporate into the diet.
Yeah. So 2 things just as a reminder for everybody, that list that we just shared before, if you have not downloaded the workbook, then you won't have access to this list. If you do download the workbook, you will have access to this list. So I encourage you all to get that workbook because that's where you're going to find that there. And I've seen comments about specific types of diet, like Lo just mentioned, keto and paleo and this and that. Again, these are all frameworks, and you all potentially need something different. And even if we all said you all needed keto, you all probably need a slightly different variation of keto for your individual needs. So just bear all of those things in mind. So this patient reached out to me many years ago. I think her son is now 2, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong, 2 or 3. And, she had 2 miscarriages. And again, no one could find out why, right? So she waited 6 years before she reached out to me, before we could help her. And it took us 6 months to help her get pregnant and have a successful pregnancy. Okay. Don't wait 6 years to make the necessary changes and to find out why. We want to make sure that you're able to get to the root issue now and create the right diet plan for you based on your root causes, and then have a successful pregnancy. So please make sure you start to think about your diet, your fertility, and your journey a little bit differently now. And remember, again, you can get all of this stuff in the workbook by just going to marksklar.com/fertility foods. Don't do it now because you're watching, but do it after the training so you can get it all afterwards, okay? So timing.
Don't leave us yet.
Talk about timing here.
Yeah. So one of the biggest things we think is really important is how and when you're eating. So typically we recommend patients to eat within 30 to 60 minutes of waking up to kickstart their metabolism and get things going and keep their blood sugar stable. We also recommend eating every 3 or 4 hours. That doesn't need to be big full meals or snacks and things like that we're including in into that area there. And then usually avoid eating after 8 p.m. Your body is starting to shut down and get ready for bed at that time. We don't want to have to worry about processing food and doing all of that. If you look here, we have some timings here. So just as an example, you have breakfast at 7 a.m. And then a few hours later, about 10 a.m., have a snack. And then right around 1 o'clock, you do your lunch, do an afternoon snack around 4 p.m., and then have your dinner by 7. And that's kind of like a good, generalized plan. Things are always different when people are waking at different times, but that's kind of the framework of what we're looking for. And then we do oftentimes get questions about intermittent fasting, and trying to get pregnant. It's another one of those diets I do love. It's always different for everybody. So intermittent fasting can be one thing that's healthy for one patient, but it may not be necessarily healthy for you. So one of the things that we do when we speak is trying to figure out the right diet for you. And so one of the ways to keep track, again, we are in a state where things are kind of not structured as they usually are. And so we like to have our patients keep a diet log. This just helps keep you on track. And this will go back to that 80-20 rule that that Marc talked about earlier. We just want to make sure we're getting a lot of the good things in our diet. And if we're having a little bit of, some treats here and there, at least we know what that looks like. It's very different from what's up in your head and what you put on paper when you actually see it. And so, and we encourage our patients to be honest and realistic when we do this. We do this with our patients that we see online and in the office. And, we always say, give us a real day, and then you can give us one of your good days, but we want to know what you're really, really eating so we can be realistic and know that we're, actually affecting change and making sure we're doing the right thing.
Yeah. And I think just something to add here for all of you is to remember that we eat differently on when our schedule is different. So if you work Monday through Friday, your diet's probably going to look one way. If you Saturday and Sunday, your diet's probably going to look a little bit differently. If you work from home some days, or like right now, many of us are working from home, your diet might look differently on those days. So it's important to recognize what your diet looks like on all of those different types of days, and then make adjustments and make a plan for each one of those days, because your resources, what's available, and what you can do will be different in each one of those circumstances. So now I want to talk about what we call the fertility spiral. And just before I get into that, I want to let everybody know, I see certain points that I think are really important in terms of questions you all are asking. And I'm making some notes right here so that we can make sure to go back and cover those at the end. I'm not, we won't forget some of these big things that we want to cover. So I promise we'll get to it. Okay, so before we get into the 80-20 rule, I want to be clear about something specific. Infertility is a symptom. It's not an illness, right? And I want to show you specifically how this works. I talked about this on several other presentations. I've talked about this with patients all the time, but pretend this is your body, where the words are, it says is your body, and it says, and something goes wrong. Oops, something is off, right? So then what ends up happening is your body shuts down its reproductive system, because it's not something that you need to survive, because it's focusing on whatever that issue was, that problem was that went oops. Okay. And then but you don't realize that because you're not aware that something went oops yet, because maybe your body's not screaming at you so loudly to let you know that something went oops. And so you keep trying without addressing the issue because you don't know it's there. Or let's say you do know it's there, and for whatever reason you decide, well, maybe if I just ignore it, or if I don't spend as much focus on it and I just focus here, I'll be able to be I'll get pregnant. The other reason why that happens is because we focus on getting pregnant and we forget about the other aspects of our health and our body, and so we ignore that piece as well. And then we keep getting negative pregnancy tests, and we keep adding more stress to our body. And we've created this vicious circle because the stress makes everything worse, and we've never paid attention to the root issue. So I'm saying this and I'm playing this out because infertility is just a symptom. It's not the actual disease. And even if we took like endometriosis, let's say, or PCOS, there are many causes for those things, that those are just, these big terms, and we need to still find the root issue for that. The other day I had someone on a live say to me, I was told I have unexplained infertility, but I also have PCOS. She doesn't have unexplained infertility. She has PCOS, and no one's paying attention to find out why she has PCOS. So this is important in terms of figuring out what's going on with your body. Are you like most women that come to us and are trying to conceive, that don't have a plan? They're just taking some supplements, avoiding some food. Maybe you've done some testing. They basically just keep trying every month with no success, excuse me, but they don't do anything different. Time keeps going on. We get more overwhelmed and more desperate. More negatives equals more stress on the body. We want to change and break this cycle. And this was the same thing for this patient, okay? She was told she was too old. She was told she wasn't fertile. It's too late for her. Something's wrong. Her eggs are no good. She needs a donor. And we get to the root issue. We support her in her journey. We find the real problem, excuse me, and now she's got a 2.5-year-old boy, okay? And so we want you all to start to think about your fertility journey differently. There's lots of fertility myths that we're told, and then we start to believe, okay? But what you need is to find out why you're not getting pregnant, create a plan to fix it, and then find the support and accountability to stick to that plan so that you can get pregnant. And so this is part of what that 80-20 rule is. That 80-20 rule is really important, right? So that example I used earlier of this woman that I've been texting back and forth with about her diet, she's not listening to the 80-20 rule, okay? Lo, do you want to jump in here while I drink some water?
Yeah. So the 80-20 rule is so important. And I feel like now more than ever, it's important because we need to have, you have to have a little room to go off a little bit. Otherwise, it's going to create more stress in the body. So yes, generally we want to follow that food pyramid. We want all of those, 80% of your diet should be doing that. You got to have a little fun the other 20% of the time. Now that doesn't mean go off completely and have donuts and, crazy things outside, tons of sugar and processed sugar and those kinds of things. But maybe those are the times that you have some dark chocolate, or you've been baking while you're at home and we've made some really good clean things, using almond flour, different types of things that really help decrease the carbohydrate content and increase the nutrition content, but you still have some goodies in there. One thing that I've been doing when I have been baking, I add a little collagen powder to the things that I'm eating. That hides a little protein in there and you get a little sneak, and I don't feel quite as bad because I'm getting my good fibers and my good protein from that. And then I think the other thing that's huge is don't feel bad. If you go off, you have a bad day or you have a treat here and there, I think that, tomorrow's a new day. Don't think about it. It didn't completely derail you. This is like what Marc was saying earlier with this patient, is focusing on that one thing and thinking like, oh my goodness, everything, this is it. My fertility, I completely derailed everything. It's not the case. Tomorrow's a new day. You just start over and make your good choices going forward from there. I think, but 80-20 rule is, unless you have an allergy or something like that, 80-20 rule is, typically what we tell patients is, because if you're focusing 100% and being so strict, to me, it looks like you're creating more stress on the other end. And then you have situations where Marc's getting text messages like that.
Yeah. And I want to mention, I often use this example. Look, there are always things that we all like and that we want to indulge in. If you're going to make the choice to indulge, and one of my favorite things to indulge in personally is gelato. I love gelato. If you're going to make that choice to indulge in gelato, don't beat yourself up while you're doing it, and start to give yourself a hard time and stress about it. Enjoy every last bite of that gelato. Just don't do it every day, right? Just make it a treat for yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Like I said, I'm baking a lot, and I made some cookies. One of the things that I do is I know that I only make one cookie at a time. Because if I have 12 cookies sitting in front of me, they're going to want to go in my belly. So I have to trick myself a little bit in that sense, where it's like, okay, and I'm using good ingredients when I make this. I don't feel bad about it, but I agree. It's, you have to, you're kind of taking all the fun out of eating the good thing if you're feeling stressed about it. It's one moment in time, move forward and know that you've been good the rest of the day or the rest of the week, and, just kind of balance it.
Yeah, I think on this slide where it says more consistency, less perfection, more commitment, less stress over the little things is really the takeaway when it comes to the 80-20 rule. And before we continue on with the last 2 points, and then be able to get you that surprise bonus for you, then I want to get into the fertility myths, okay? Or some additional fertility myths, I should say. All right, so I can't get pregnant. I need IVF. The questions I want you to ask yourself if you're having this conversation or asking this question or making this statement is, have you really tried it all? Have you done enough testing? Have you really tried enhancing your fertility? Are there other options? IVF docs are doing their best. But there are always, in my opinion, other ways. And you need to look at what else is happening and why you're not getting pregnant. IVF works for those with very specific issues who need it, okay? And I can give you tons and tons and tons of examples of that, but I'm not going to do it right now because we don't have time for that. I will give you this one example here because she was trying to get pregnant naturally after 2 years of trying. And we were able to get to the root issue. And all these stories of hope are on my website. So if you want to listen to them more specifically, you absolutely can. But she had PCOS. They told her she couldn't get pregnant, and she was finally able to do that on her own. Okay. So it's important that you understand that if your diet is 100% perfect, but you're taking the wrong supplements, there is something missing. Okay. If you're stressed out, you don't sleep, you have anxiety, the perfect diet won't be enough. If you have bad life habits, you drink, you smoke, your diet won't save you from it all. Okay. And if you're surrounded by negative energy, have a toxic environment, toxic beauty products, your diet won't do much either. Okay. This is just one piece of multiple areas that need to be addressed. And I've covered this wheel in other presentations, but you can see diet is just one piece of this pie that needs to be understood to have and be balanced and taken care of appropriately to have the best chance at conception. Okay. But you might need more than just adjusting your diet to get to where you want to go. The reason our fertility coaching starts with a personal assessment is because every woman is different. Together, we review it all: nutrition, lifestyle habits, environment, all this list, all those 12 areas that we just mentioned. We need to find out your why. We need to understand what's not working for you, what your health is telling us, so that we can address it for you as an individual. These fertility recommendations are fantastic and will make a difference to start out. But if you really want to get pregnant, it would be best if you had your own fertility plan. A personalized protocol is just one more key to the puzzle that might include these things, but maybe not all of them. All right. This is what a typical fertility plan, or this is, I should say, a piece, just one page of multiple pages of a fertility plan that we create for our patients. And this is just the supplement piece. And you can see each one of those is different and unique because you each need different things. So if you're like, I want my fertility plan, my own supplement protocol, and my own nutrition plan, and I want to have a clear path, I'm sick of trying without results, you have two options. You can start with the tips from this training and keep researching on Google, otherwise known as doing it the hard way, or you can take the fast route to your dreams and apply to work with us. And that's definitely a much easier and more direct path for all of you watching. Okay. If you have unlimited time, keep trying month after month. If being your own detective is time consuming and hard and stressful, you may end up spending more money doing this on your own and may end up in IVF. But if you work with us, then you have access to your own fertility coach. You will have, you get to work with one of us to help you create that plan. And you'll have your own experienced fertility detective doing the hard work so that you can do the work on your side and not have to do all of it as well. And you won't be spending unnecessary time and money and energy on the things that you don't need. The nutrition guidelines we share today will absolutely do wonders for all of you, but they're just the tip of the iceberg. Fertility coaching is so much more. And the reason we created the Hope Fertility Consultations is because you not only need a plan, but you also need accountability and support to implement it so that you don't feel alone. Okay. So if you decide to take the fast route and decide to work with us, nothing's held back. We're going to dive deep into your plan, into your issues so that we can help you get pregnant and remove the headaches and the heartaches that come month after month. Okay. So what is a Hope Fertility Consultation? It's a 60-minute virtual consultation with me or Lonica. Actually, this is who you'd be working with to dig deeper and create a personalized fertility plan for you. It's that simple. Okay. We're going to help you create your own roadmap. That's really what it is. But to find out why, just so you all know, we've got to dig deeper. We've got to learn what your specific needs are. We have to run lab work. We have to review your medical history, review your lab work. So there's a lot for us to cover. And potentially, just so you all know, after that first call, you might still have homework to do and some additional testing to do so that we can get all the proper information. But we work with couples from all over the world to get them to create the right meal plan, the right supplement plan, the right lifestyle plan for them so that they can be successful. And these are some of the women that we've worked with. I'm just going to kind of show you them, but I'm not going to spend a lot of time on that. So because I want to make sure I get to your questions as well. And we've got this beautiful baby wall in our office. We'd love for all of you to be the next picture that we put up there. And this is your chance to get some one-on-one time with our fertility expert team and have a personalized health and fertility plan for you to follow at home. So here's how it works. If you want to join and you want to do this, then all you have to do is go to marksklar.com/hope and you choose who you want to work with, me or Lonica. When it says team, it's actually her. And the first two to take action right now will get a 25% discount by using the code FAST during checkout. And those, once those two are gone, the next 10 can use the code SMART to get a 15% discount if you want to work with Lonica as well. And then after that, you'll get all the emails to be able to set up your calls, to fill out the forms, and to send us everything that you need. So if this feels like it's meant for you, then go to marksklar.com/hope. The difference between working with me and Lonica is absolutely nothing. Actually, there is a difference. And I did this on my Instagram stories yesterday, is that when you work with me, you just get me. When you work with Lonica, you get Lonica and me, because we work together on all of our cases. And so you get 2 brains and 4 eyes and 2 people looking on your case when you work with Lo. And so that might be a great option for many of you. I'm going to see right here. Okay, so you've got, again, the 2 options. If you want to do it, just go to marksklar.com/hope. If you're watching from YouTube, that's where you want to go. If not, you can click. If you're watching from the watch page, then you can click on the button below to do that. And remember, you've got to use the codes to be able to take advantage of it. So FAST to get the 25% off. And once those are gone, then you can use the code SMART. And as I promised at the end of this, that if you wanted your 4-day meal plan, then you have to download the workbook to get it. And that's by going to marksklar.com/fertility foods. So I'm going to come back on so we can talk and answer all your questions and see where we go from there. Give me 1 second to hide this. Awesome. Okay. So we've got all the codes there for you. They're all in the feed, in the comment section. There's a couple of things that I wanted to point out and talk about. There were some key topics that I saw in the comment section that I wanted to discuss. One is coffee. This is a big one. For those of you who follow me more closely know that I love my coffee. Usually one of the gifts that Lo usually gives me for the holidays is usually coffee. That's how much I like it. And so, but it doesn't mean that, so I know we all hear these things about coffee and caffeine. Just because you hear that doesn't mean that you have to avoid coffee. Avoiding coffee is not necessary for everybody. I would say the people that I think it's more important for are the ones who've had a miscarriage. So if you've had a miscarriage or a loss, then I do think you might have to start considering how much coffee or caffeine you take. I think the other difference is, if you have a cup of coffee every day versus a cup of coffee every day, these are different things, right? And so you all have to recognize that caffeine intake is important, and also the quality of the coffee that you're consuming. But there's no one hard, fast rule. It depends on your specific needs. Lo, there was a question about being a vegan. Do you want to comment on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. We do have a lot of patients who are vegan. I think that there's different degrees. You have to make sure that you're eating a lot of good, clean foods, that you're not eating a lot of the processed foods. You know, from our perspective, we do think animal protein can be a building block for fertility, but we also understand that there's different, you know, lifestyle choices and things like that out there. So I think the biggest thing is making sure if you are eating that way, you're getting enough protein, you're eating a lot of good leafy greens, you're not eating processed foods, and you're just really eating the good, healthy, clean, whole foods, pretty much sticking to that pyramid, just adjusting a little bit.
Yeah. Awesome. I agree. Look, what we don't want you to do when you're a vegan is become a carbarian, right? That your entire diet is full of carbs. We want to make sure that you're eating a lot of vegetables and that you're having a nice balanced meal throughout the day and consistently, and that you're getting enough healthy fats as well. And those are really some key important pieces when you're not eating animal protein. And then the other question was about rice. I think someone had mentioned a comment that like, oh, Marc said not to eat rice. I think the way you need to take this is that we need to be careful of how many carbohydrates we're having and the types of carbohydrates we're having. Yeah. For some of you, depending on your condition, yes, it might be important to avoid rice or other grains. But there is no hard, fast rule specifically for everybody that everybody should avoid rice. I'm going to look. I think we've got some more time for at least one or two more questions. So I'm going to look at those right now. Let's see here. Agave nectar, honey, or maple syrup, all organic, has been my replacement. Maple syrup's a bit, I think, sweet. I think just in minimal amounts. Agave's okay. My preference of everything you just wrote there would be honey, quite frankly. So, let's see. Someone asked how will you run blood work online? We've got lots of different companies we work with that work with patients from all over the world, and so that's how we can run and order that. We also will work with you with who your physician is there. Let's see what other questions. I see a couple other ones coming in. If you are overweight, can that affect your ability to get pregnant? Absolutely, 100% it can. Yep. Too low BMI, too little weight, too thin, and too high can absolutely cause hormone imbalance and affect your fertility. And when you have excess weight and excess fat in the body, you're going to start to produce more estrogen. And your body's going to have a hard time metabolizing that efficiently and effectively. And that can cause a hormonal imbalance, potentially estrogen dominance, and fertility issues as well. Yeah. All right. So thank you all for joining today. Lo, thank you for joining. I really appreciate it for many, many reasons, but it helped me save my voice a little bit as well.
I wanted to add one last thing, just because we work with patients everywhere. One of the reasons I know Dr. Marc mentioned as far as working one-on-one, one of the things I noticed, I had a patient last week talk to me and say that, oh, they watched Dr. Marc's fertility TV or whatever it was and said, oh, don't take DHE and these things. Sometimes we recommend those different types of things. And so when I put her on that supplement, I she asked, she said, oh, Dr. Marc suggested not to do that. And so I think it was one of those things, we tested her hormones. That was something that I did need to put her on. And so it's one of those things that makes me show that, the difference between these generalized recommendations that we make and then really working with you and looking at your hormones and looking at your specific case, because there are times that we do put patients things because we do need them to. And so I think it was, it's funny because I don't always get to see everything that Dr. Marc posts, but I'm just like, oh, he said that. I know why he said that. But for you specifically, that's not necessarily, we do need you on those certain things. And so I think it really makes a big difference to be able to work one-on-one with you and really see what's going on with your specific fertility.
Yeah. And just, I didn't say not to take DHEA. I said, don't take it if you haven't had it tested so that you know how much you should be on if you're going to get on it. But we think the same. Yes. You and I are on the same page. We've got to make sure that you all know that Lo and I think the same way. Anyway, thank you, Lo.
Yes,
I love that last comment. I think that was really important to share with everybody and show everybody how individualized the plans could be for all of them. But more importantly, thank you to all of you for watching and for being here and for joining us in this little over an hour presentation. So hopefully it was helpful on your nutrition. And hopefully it's helpful on your journey. And we look forward to hopefully working with many of you in the future. So have a wonderful day and stay healthy and safe, everybody.
Yes. Thank you.